Who's most likely to pop? Is Ace our best draft pick ever? What are our top 5 assets? And speaking of 5, who's playing the 5? All of the questions have come in. It's another Ask LOJ edition, and it's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Today's show is brought to you in part by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and get $20 off your first purchase. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. Fridays, we like to do an Ask Locked on Jazz edition. We are loaded up today with a ton of great questions, as we always are. And to the everydayers out there who listen each and every day, thank you so much for being a Locked on Jazz every day and make us what we are. Let's get it started right away. We've got a bunch to roll through today. We'll start with, you talked the other day about waiting for our young players to pop. Who, in your opinion, is the most likely to pop to an eventual all-star NBA level? So the idea is, this is really important. Really what we're doing now as a franchise is that the Jazz have this collection of 9, we'll call them, young players and a bunch of future assets. And the 9 young players that we have, have positioned the Jazz into a position in which they're hoping that some of them pop, either an all-star or rotation level player, and they begin to be your pieces. And then at some point along the way, either enough of them pop that you then can start to add on top. And in this new collective bargaining agreement landscape, that adding on top should be easier than it's been in the past. The players are moving more, teams are under salary constraints. That should be an easier it's easier to make trades with numbers if you're not inside the apron. So that's the model. But the first thing that has to happen is guys have to pop. And quite frankly, the risk of this model is if nobody pops, you're just kind of in it for purgatory. So who's most likely to pop? I will probably maybe surprise you with one and not surprise you. So Ace Bailey, certainly. Like, we've seen him for 2 games. One, he took a bunch of bad shots. The other, but he also made a play in there when he came to the free throw line, pulled up for a jumper. He's 6'9", he's 210, he's got an 8'11" standing reach, he's got a 7'1" wingspan. Like, you just can't create that. Like, he's got a chance. He's got skill sets that matches some of the best players that have ever played in this game. And now the question is, does he have the mental toughness? Is he mature? Does he stay focused? Does he work? What do millions of dollars do to him? All the same questions happen to every other 18-year-old. And so, but he is unquestionably most likely to pop. And he could pop at a massive level. Like, there's just massive. I mean, a lot of things have to happen, but it's there. I am still going to go with Keyonte second. For some reason, despite some numbers that might tell me otherwise, I hold to be somewhat bullish on Keyonte. There are not a lot of players who, through 150 games of their career, shoot 39% from the floor, 34% from 3, and get through it. But I think this kid's still got a chance. If you look at it from an effective field goal percentage chance, because of the way we shoot threes now, and you take it at 48.4, it's some of the statistical chances are not as bad as if you look at field goal percentage and that. He's gotten a ton of time and experience. He's body is great. He's 6'4", 185. Like, that fits. he is a horrendous defensive player and has to decide to make an effort on that side of the basketball. He needs to figure out all sorts of things. How to take some easier shots. Really redo his entire shot selection. Right now, I'm not sure with his shot selection that he could shoot better than he does in some ways. But there are also all sorts of little signs. Like he increased a free throw game. He increased a rebound a game. He increased an assist and a half a game. There are a bunch of signs there that this could still come together. I don't think he's an all-star, but I think he could be a piece. I'm still have a lot of hope out for Keyonte. After that, those are my two. Every other one, as of right now, has some hurdle they have to overcome that feels significant and too significant to pop, per se. So those are my two. What are your top 5 current Jazz assets? Oh, that's interesting. So I'll actually take the first round draft pick next year as our top asset. The draft is supposed to be better, and the chances of us having worse than the 5th pick, I think, are limited. Could happen again, but it seems limited. So I would take next year's draft pick as our number 1 asset we have. I would take Ace Bailey as number 2 asset we have. I would probably take our first round draft pick in 2027 as our next best asset. Assuming we get another good player, we go through another year with Ace Bailey and AJ or whoever. So I'll go there. So the first is 2026 first round draft pick. Second is Ace. Third is 2027 pick. Walker is 4th. Maybe the Suns 2031 pick would be 5th. And then Lauri, I guess. The interesting one here is Cody and Taylor. Makes this question really, really interesting. I still, if I had to rank, I would just say this. If I had to rank our Jazz second-year players, Cody, Isaiah, and Flip, on best asset in 5 years, I might still take Cody, coming off a tough season. And then Taylor's size and body are so tremendous that if he starts to come together, he vaults up this list pretty fast. But that injury was really significant, and it was kind of weird and fluky, and that has me hesitant. Like, I'd like to make sure that this is not just some body that doesn't work. That was a one-off fluke. But if Taylor can play a little bit at 6'9", 225 now, like, I don't know what we updated all of our weights very subtly, by the way. I don't know if everybody caught this, but during camp, the Jazz updated all their weights. Cody Williams was up 20 pounds. And Isaiah Collier was up about 10 or 12 pounds, which may or may not be working. But Cody was up to 190. Collier was up to 210. And Taylor, we don't know because he's not on the roster, so we don't have a number, but I wish we did. All right, those are my top 5 assets. Jazz 2026 first-round pick. Ace Bailey. Jazz 2020 first-round pick. Walker Kessler, and then I went Lauri, but with a chance that becomes Taylor or Cody. But also could be the Suns' 2031 first-round pick. What part of Ace Bailey's game has you most excited? Is Ace the best talent the Jazz have ever drafted? And a player comp for Walt, Clayton Jr., all as we continue here on Locked on Jazz. Friday edition of the show is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. This is exactly how this is supposed to work. So I get an email the other day from Blake, not Blake Murdoch, from one of our longtime listeners. I don't know if he wants me to use his whole name. Total bummer. His car got totaled. He's in a market for a car, and he's going to look at Murdoch Hyundai. So we hook up. He emails me. I quickly send an email over to Scott, our VIP service guy over at salesman over at Murdoch Hyundai in Murray. Scott immediately reaches out to Blake. Blake heads over to Murdoch Hyundai, gets the VIP treatment. He arrives. He doesn't have to do that weird thing where you're sitting there wondering who's going to take care of you, who's not, that whole awful thing, and ends up looking at cars and sends me this email. I just wanted to let you know about my experience at the dealership. I met with Lewis because Scott transferred him over because Scott was out that day. He was great to work with, showing me cars within my price range. Ended up settling on a 2024 Tucson. He was very patient and friendly and helping me address my car needs. Great experience. That's exactly how this works. You as an everydayer or a lockdown listener get the VIP treatment from Murdoch Hyundai. They take care of you. Seamless experience. So if you're in the market for a car, and whether it's a big SUV like the Palisade or the Santa Fe, or small one like the Tucson, or an electric Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6, or a Sonata or an Elantra, you email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Boom, I send it over to our guy who's got the lockdown relationship. You get that VIP treatment and get taken care of, hopefully the best of what you want on that day. It's awesome. So if you're looking for a car right now, it's time to do it with the Murdochs. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. That's right. The summer is here. Whether you're going to a ball game or a concert, or whatever it might be, Game Time is the answer. And last minute maybe is the best, because Game Time has all sorts of opportunities for you to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drink, merchandise, even invite a bigger group. Game Time makes it possible. Makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they get incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee. It checks all the boxes of what you want. So Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB and of Locked On Podcast Network. So it's easy to browse the app and get exciting Major League Baseball game coming. Exclusive last-minute ticket deals, big savings. You can also do it for concerts. Seat views right up in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen. I'm off to Vegas, so I'll see our games Friday and Sunday in Vegas. I'll be back here by Monday. Hopefully see a bunch of people and some fun stuff like that as well. But check Ace Bailey out one more time in person, 2 more times in person, hopefully. As expected, Bryce Sensabaugh is out for some. Does Bryce Sensabaugh have a chance to pop? I didn't include him in there. He would probably go into the side of that. There's a hurdle in front of them for their career still that is significant enough that I'm not comfortable saying they're going to pop. I think Isaiah has that. Cody has that. Flip has that. Sensabaugh has that. Taylor has that. They all have significant hurdles still that they have to overcome. What part of Ace Bailey's Game 2 in Summer League made you most excited? Also, without jumping the gun, do you think his ceiling is, if everything hits, Donovan type? Well, if everything hits, he's Tracy McGrady. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think he's really going to score 27 a game in the NBA or whatever Tracy did. But, I mean, if everything hits, yeah. I mean, everything hitting is kind of a silly concept. But Tracy McGrady's a 7-time All-Star, went to the Hall of Fame and averaged 32 points a game at one point and was like top 4 MVP candidate. So that might be a little much. But you just said everything hits. And Tracy McGrady was 6'8", 210. Like, yeah. So the answer to that question is yes. What did I like? The hustle, actually. The offensive rebound and putback plays, where the play I like the most, gives me the most hope and has me the most excited, is that Ron Boone and I were literally talking about how, wow, this has to be crazy different for Ace Bailey. He's running down the corner, sitting in the corner and not touching the ball. And every other team he's ever been on, he gets the ball. And then we swung it to the left side. He didn't get it. The shot went up and he crashed from the corner and got the ball and power dribbled and went back up and dunked. And that, to me, was like, oh, this kid's engaged in the game, not feeling sorry for himself, not worrying about not touching the ball, willing to make an impact. You know, you have to make yourself, Ron talks about this all the time. Don't just be out there, like make yourself be felt on the floor. And Ace did that. And so that's the most exciting. Ron's play that Ron liked the most was when he dribbled right to left, got to the free throw line to a spot, pulled up for the jumper, definitely hit it with a soft touch. And Ron's like, okay, well, if you can do that, you can score anytime you want in the league. Is Ace the best talent the Jazz have ever drafted? So that, in one sense, you know, you drafted Karl Malone. And so I think that will forever probably be there. Understanding the concept that where he got drafted, Daryl Griffith as the 3rd pick of the draft, I think it was, would be the other highest. Dante Exum was the 5th, was not this talented. And was really still kind of a mystery on why, but there also was a pretty big drop off in that draft. Marcus Smart was 6 and Nick Stauskas was 7. We were kind of really talking about sitting on the wrong side of a draft on that draft. So maybe. I mean, Karl, I think, is the answer, right? But most talented, best talent, just body-wise, length, things like that, maybe. But Daryl was college player of the year and pretty great. Is Fred VanVleet a realistic best-case scenario for Walt Clayton Jr.? Oh, that's interesting. So undrafted Fred VanVleet, who then has been, first of all, you better be tough as hell. Like, I'm not sure there's many guys as tough as Fred VanVleet. So Fred came into the league after Wichita State. He's 6 feet, 200-pound bowling ball. So their bodies are a little different. He could really shoot it. I mean, I think he was a 40% college shooter and somehow went undrafted at 6 feet and then worked his way. It really took a year or two. In Toronto, it was year 3 when he suddenly started. And then year 4, he averaged 18 points a game. It's interesting. I've not thought about a comp for Walt Clayton Jr. I just feel like there's so many guards that are like this, right? So 6'2", 195. Like there's just 100 of them. Fred VanVleet would be a realistic best case. It's an interesting way to phrase that. If we just go best case, I think that's fair. That means he made an all-star team. So is Fred VanVleet the best case for Walt Clayton Jr.? Yes. Yes. If he can be that tough, that physical, and play above his size and shoot and be an all-star, that's best case scenario. Do you think it's a purposeful effort to try flip out at the 5 this summer? That's where he'd fit best in the rotation if Hendricks is a 4 and Ace is a 3. So I think that's where he is in the rotation. If we get to the next question, lineup projections for the season, I think the guards are Clayton and Collier. The shooting guards are Keyonte and Bryce. And then I actually think that they all can play so whoever just plays best is going to get those minutes, right? So if Collier and Clayton are not playing well, then it becomes Keyonte and Bryce if they're playing well. If Collier and Clayton are playing better, it becomes those two and Keyonte and Bryce. Like, I just think those can interchange. With Kyle Anderson kind of intermixed in there as the veteran. And then your 3 is Lauri Markkanen, or your 3 is Ace Bailey and Cody Williams. And your 4 is Lauri Markkanen and Taylor Hendricks. And Cody probably can slide to a 2, but not to a 4. Ace can slide to a 4. Taylor can Lauri can slide to a 3. Your centers are Walker Kessler and Kyle Filipowski with Jusuf Nurkic. But as we'll get to our next question, we're just rolling now. I do think there's some other iterations of that. So do I think that purpose effort to try flip out the 5 this summer? Yeah, because I think that's where his minutes are going to come. It's also where he's best offensively. Because if he can play the 5 and run the offense through him, and he's bringing the 5 out on the floor, guarding him, then the back cuts and the passing and all those things that he brings to the table open up. If he brings the 4 out and the 5 still at the rim, those things don't exist. And then the other thing that Flip brings is the ability to drive it on a 5. So from an offensive standpoint, there's just no question to me Flip is a 5, and that's where he has just an awesome chance for success. And the question is, can he play the 5 defensively? That's going to be, that's his hurdle that I just talked about. His offense is awesome. And the things he can do out of that are tremendous. And it's a great draft pick. I have concerns that his defense is just going to be so prohibitive for him that staying on the floor is going to be really difficult. That's the hurdle on him, right? What are other iterations of our lineup, and what else could we do? An interesting idea, and one I've been waiting for years. Next on Locked on Jazz. You guys are really tremendous. The questions that come in every week are so good. I try to get through as many as possible. I will continue to do so. We'll do this more and more because you guys, this is the best show. It's the most listened to show every week. And it's the best show because your questions are great. Do you think Lauri can play the 5 as he gets older, maybe slows down, and do you see him gravitating to the center position? So I have always thought, and particularly when I thought there was a chance we were going to get better faster, that our Walker was our starting 5 and Lauri was our closing 5. I've always thought Lauri should play 5 in backup units, and then when the game got small. If Taylor Hendricks gets healthy, I think we will see that this year. Because if you have Lauri Markkanen, Ace Bailey, and Taylor Hendricks on the floor together, you don't have a lot of ball handling. You have none, frankly, out of that group. But you have great, incredible length. You could probably switch 1 through 5, and you have multiple secondary rim defenders. You better have 2 ball handlers on the floor, whether it's Clayton and Collier, Keyonte, whatever it is. You better have 2 ball handlers on the floor. But I think Lauri will play some 5 this year if Taylor gets healthy and Taylor can play and is a good player with Taylor and Ace on the floor together. Taylor and Ace on the floor together is a really exciting combination for the Jazz defensively because of the fact that it means if they have any other type of center. With Walker also, now you just have a lot of non-ball handlers and non-shooters, and you don't have a lot of space. The other one that could get really interesting here is, can Taylor and Ace protect Kyle enough that you're playing Kyle, who's short length, his reach is short for his position, and then Taylor and Ace, I think, are both 7'1" wingspans, and they suddenly are able to protect the basket while Kyle is not as good at that and cover for him. And then Kyle can conduct the offense as the 5 on the outside, and now you've got Ace and Taylor cutting with other shooters on the floor. That gets to be some exciting combinations that we see develop, and I think we'll see all of them this year. But it really becomes quite interchangeable, right? As we said, like Cody can slide down to play the 2, not a great ball handler yet. And then you suddenly have Cody, and if you have Cody Williams, Ace Bailey, and Taylor Hendricks on the floor together, and Cody's able to play well at that point. If I remember correctly, Cody's wingspan is really something. He's a 7'1" wingspan also, right? So you've got Cody who's 6'8", maybe with a 7'1" wingspan. You've got Taylor Hendricks with we'll just have the wingspan team, but you're with a 7'1" wingspan, and you have Ace Bailey with a 7'1" wingspan. Okay, you're now really long, right? Like really long. This is where this is beginning to, they got to learn how to play. Taylor can't run into Jordan Clarkson, go in isolation. Like, he's got to learn how to play. He's behind the curve on that. But this is where you start to piece these things together, and a lot of it starts to feel. And then frankly, if you have Keyonte at the point guard at that point, And again, that's not a lot of ball handling. Keyonte's long. He's 6'7" and 6'8" for his position. So if you suddenly had Keyonte, Cody, Taylor, Ace, Lauri, Kyle, Walker, I don't care. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. There was a question that played in today on something I just said, so I was going to try to see if I could jump to it. Don't see it. Okay. How concerned are you? What do you think is the root cause of Isaiah Collier's poor play in Summer League so far? So I didn't think he was as bad as everybody else did. I'm guessing that the coaches really told him to run the show and get everyone involved. And then I thought it lost. Then I thought as the 3 days went on, he lost some rhythm. I mean, what did he shoot? I don't know. I have it over here somewhere. The shootings, the unwillingness to want to take the outside shot is as big a problem to me as anything else. Like, you just can't play a starting guard in the NBA who doesn't shoot threes. It just doesn't exist anymore. Like, that's just not an option. I didn't think he was beating people one-on-one the way he did in college. That would be my only other comment. Who is the former Jazz player still in the league you're rooting for the most? Mine is Rudy. I want haters to be proved wrong. Yeah, I'm probably Rudy and Mike, though I still root for Donovan quite a bit. I think Georges Niang is one of the most special players in this league in regards to what he brings to teams. I know this is going to sound crazy, but like, it's not stunning to me that Cleveland lost in the first round after trading Georges Niang. Like, if we literally go look at Georges Niang's career, and I'm a numbers guy, not usually this, but I can tell you from being on a team with Georges Niang, the energy and atmosphere that he creates around the building is real. And the minute we traded Georges Niang, Rudy Gay for Georges Niang, we weren't the same. And then he goes to Philadelphia for 2 years. And this is during the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and all that stuff. And they get along for 2 years. Like, they suddenly get along. And everyone can't figure out why. And then he goes to Cleveland. And Cleveland suddenly bursts. And then he gets traded to Atlanta for the final 28 games of the season. And all of a sudden, Cleveland loses in the first round of the playoffs. And all of a sudden, Philadelphia is a disaster. And all of a sudden, Utah collapsed. Like, I know it sounds crazy. I literally think this guy changes the way the game is played and who he is. And everyone around him. And now he's bounced around, and I don't even know what team he's on anymore. I think he's on Boston. But if I was a good team, I would add Georges Niang to my roster right now. If you were running the Jazz and had to give up a draft pick to get out of the bad Derek Favors contract, would have you given the Thunder the draft pick right then and there in 2023 instead of, I mean, was a great debate. Like, Justin Zanuck kind of commonly was saying, like, so if we move on from the pick and we wouldn't have Taylor Hendricks, I think we have to wait and see what happens with Taylor. And that's probably not the right way to make that decision. I don't know. We were really boxed in on that. That was a really unfortunate circumstance to be tied into the protections on that pick. And by the end of it, we're going to get to use all of our picks, and Oklahoma State's going to get nothing out of it. But it did cost us, in some ways, the inability to move forward for 4 seasons. So it's a really unfortunate trade that does seem to have hamstrung us. Would have we been better? I don't know. Had we given up the 2023 pick so that we weren't encumbered 24, 25, and 20 in this next year, would we have done something differently? I don't know that to be true. That would be the other thing I would say. I think this group was pretty committed to the long path of trying to see if it could go get some special game-changing players. I don't think they're committed to being a 45-50 win team. Is there any concern that Coach Hardy's ability to coach defense and defensive schemes, or is it more an individual talent work? Probably more individual talent. We have not been good defensively. My only thing that I think Will's going to try to really work on is I don't think we can be last in turnovers and last in forcing turnovers. Like, that's the possession games become too important. Seems like the biggest asset to John Collins' trade was the $26 million trade exception. In your opinion, how should the Jazz use it? So I do think that is the case. You can use it either by taking someone's salary and getting picks because you took their salary. 2, you can take it by you use it to sign someone. You can use it to trade someone into that trade exception as well. It just gives you flexibility for the next 365 days to figure out what might be available. I don't know if I can answer, in my opinion, how they should use it, but if we start to have guys pop, this would be a very valuable way to, we don't have a very good year. Ace pops, Keyonte makes a jump. We know we're getting the top 3. We draft the top 3 pick. That's a pretty quick way for us to add a $25 million player with Lauri, and then we're pretty good. Or at least then we're starting. Are the Jazz lacking tradable contracts to match salaries and deals for other players? Probably not under this collective bargaining agreement, and that trade exception certainly hurts. And a basketball on-floor question to wrap us up. I worry about ball movement with our team. Is there something that can be coached? Not many players in this roster seem like connective passes. Well, that's why Kyle Anderson, I think, veteran presence is really important. And yes, you're right. Nobody passes on this roster. We don't have a lot of very good ball handlers, and we turn it over a lot, and we don't pass, and that is going to be a major issue. So yes, on a basketball floor standpoint of things, that is a major issue. Considering the size of Booker's new deal, do you think it hampers the Suns moving forward, more specifically 2031 first-round pick coming to Utah? I just think Phoenix is in a box, in a bad one, and they now have this problem that we've had, that the 2031 pick, and so they cannot rebuild. And so they'll have to keep reloading in every way possible for them. And I think the chances are that first round pick becomes like a 14 or 15, that they're not going to be so terrible that it's like the golden ticket, but you never know. That wraps us. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back with you. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'll give you some YouTube shorts and Instagram stuff from there, reporting on various things. And then I will talk with you Monday back from the regular studio. It is Locked on Jazz. Thank you very much for tuning in. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked on NBA. And if you haven't checked out the regular Locked on NBA show with Doug Branson, Matt Moore, and Hayes, please do. Out there. So I want you to check it out and tell me whether you agree. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. Go check out Locked on NBA. Have a wonderful day.